It's been a good camp. There's a lot of guys that have stepped up and made plays. I think, really the biggest surprise, which is a good thing, has been Damian Ratley. He's played really well. Guys had a great camp, and really excited about his progress, especially from spring. You looked at a guy who was a junior college guy just getting used to playing an SEC style of football, and obviously with Coach Chavis' defense, there's a lot of press coverage, and having to go against that every day took him a little while to get adjusted, but he's had a great camp so far. And, obviously Ricky and Christian and Speedy and Josh have had a great camp, and also been really excited about Jeremy Taboyle. He's done a good job as well.
So is Ratley kind of vying for that fifth receiver spot?
Well, yeah, I think so. Especially your backup outside, and then Boone and Sabian Holmes are fighting for that inside job, and also like I said, Jeremy's still fighting, and obviously Ed Pope's a guy that's played here and done a great job, and you're never going to count out a guy that's had success at this level, and he kind of had a little nagging deal early, but he got going towards the end, and now he'll be back and kind of his full self, which is nice. And going into game week, we have some good weapons, and that's always a good thing against Arizona State, who's got a lot of good defensive players.
You take over a group like this, how do you go about making them more physical? How did you go about that? And where do you feel you're at now, your receivers group, as far as physicality is concerned?
Well, I think you have to set the standard. And if your standard is every day that you're going to play physical, then they'll buy into it. And they've done a good job of that. Every day they've gone out and tried to prove how physical they can be. And, a guy like Christian Kirk comes in from high school and wants to do everything right. And he's a young, strong guy. And he really was a guy that came in and started doing some really good things in the spring. Guys realized, what it was going to take, which was funny watching from a kid who just left high school. And it made Ricky step his game up. It made Speedy step his game up. And all those guys who showed flashes of being tough were constantly being tough. And that's a good thing. And I think, when I look out and you want to look at the national, what people think about us, I want them to see playmakers and guys that are absolutely the toughest group on the field. And, that's that's what we talk about, standards all the time. If you're going to be the best pass catchers, you got to be physically tough, you got to be mentally tough, and you got to be able to do different things within the pass game and the run game. So that's really where we're at, and I think we did a good job of that this camp.
Has Christian been able to carry over that consistency from the spring on into
He's been really good. He's been really good. Probably, honestly, between him and Ricky, probably been our two most consistent guys this camp. They're doing a great job. Christian, for a young guy, is really mature, does a nice job in the film study, does a nice job of asking the right questions, does a nice job on the field, staying after and working on his craft. So really pleased with Christian, and now it's time to put the lights on and see what the young fella's going to do in Houston.
We talked to Jake. What about the rotation? You're going to have certain guys get more snaps, do you feel, or how's that going to work?
We'll get that figured out when it's time.
You mentioned the physicality. Obviously, blocking is a big part of that. What progressions have you seen with those guys in that department so far?
Well, everybody has it in them. It's just whether you're demanded to do it or not, and whether you're taught to do it the right way. And that's really something I pride myself on, is demanding toughness, demanding consistency, and demanding that they are going to learn at a certain level. And if I'm going to teach them at a certain level, I'm going to demand that eventually they're going to get it. And having a spring to kind of get them to where I wanted them to be, and then have the summer for them to help themselves out, and then a fall camp to really get that thing where I wanted it. That's usually about what it is. It takes some time, but I'm pleased with those guys right now. We have to continue to get better. It can't just stop right now and think it's just going to be all of a sudden it's going to be great for the whole season. You got to keep that thing going. You got to keep the demands up. You got to keep them really on their toes, and I think that's the most important thing, and just not understanding now, if we're going against a scout team, that you slow down. Now you speed up, and that's the way it's going to take, and that's the way that I was taught, when I was in college. That's the way that I was demanded of it when I was playing in Indianapolis with Peyton and Marvin Harrison and Reggie and those guys. It demanded greatness every day, and I'm not slowing down for anybody.
You mentioned, the fact that they've been going against the press coverage, all fall camp. How much of a difference do you feel like that has made in kind of helping them grow throughout the last 2 weeks?
Well, you have to grow, because if you're out there on an island, you'll get embarrassed if you can't get off press coverage, if you can't make a right break and you're getting balls batted down every single time or intercepted. So it makes you grow up. It makes you grow up fast, and that's a good thing, because the guys are competitive, guys that really want to get better, they'll find a way to get better. They'll start understanding the techniques and working them after practice, working them before practice, working them in the individual drills. And that's where Damian Ratley has stood out, because the guy just works and works and works. And if there's a problem, he'll fix it. And that's really been really encouraging from him. A guy like Speedy, who's physical, can do a great job out there. Josh is smooth. He's working on some of the different techniques, and it's going to allow him to just add to his game. And I think that, you know, from an outside receiver's perspective, seeing press every day is great, because once you don't, it's like it's like a breath of fresh air when you just get off coverage and you get to run routes and you don't have someone in your hip pocket.
Where would you say Ricky has improved the most?
I think it's twofold. I think that he's become tougher and he's become a more consistent pass catcher. And I think the game is slowed down for him. The guy was in high school playing quarterback. He got hurt first year here. Then he played receiver last year, and it was his first year playing receiver, and it was tough for him. And he'll be the first one to admit that. You know, I don't think that it was a smooth year for him. I don't think anyone who was watching Texas A&M football would think it was a smooth year for him. But, you know, the guy was just fresh out, really, and just starting to play a new position in the best conference with the best defenders in college football. And, you know, he had an up and down year, and I think the game slowed down for him. He's starting to see the defenses. He's starting to see the coverages. And, you know, he's understanding how to get in and out of breaks. And, that, you know, you never can take that for granted, because that's the hardest thing to do, is to make the game slow down. And once it slows down, that's where the pure athleticism, the size, the speed, the quickness can really take over.
With Speedy, is he starting to also, like Ricky, he needs to learn a lot about the nuances and the technique and everything, the fundamentals that maybe they didn't have last year? Are you seeing the same thing with Speedy?
Yeah, I mean, he wants to. And the thing about Speedy, he wants to be great, and he wants to learn everything. And sometimes you don't think he's listening, and then you might ask him a question and he'll spit it back to you verbatim, which is, you know, he is taking everything in, and that's a plus, you know. And he's got to continue to get consistent, and that's going to be something we got to continue to develop, not only from Speedy but everybody in our group, is just a consistency. And that's, you know, again, a guy that wants to do it and wants to understand it. He does watch a lot of film. You know, we've given these guys a lot of opportunity to watch film on their own, and he does it all the time. And he'll come back and ask questions. So, again, mentally, I'm pleased with where we're at. I think physically, again, I think there's things we can continue to improve on, and we will as the year continues to go on. But moving into Arizona State, I think, you know, we're really in a good spot right now.
Josh Reynolds had school record 13 touchdown catches last year with a bum shoulder. With two good shoulders, what are your expectations for Josh?
Well, I think, you know, if I'm Josh, I'm looking to break my own record, and that, you know, I'm looking for 1,000 yards and look towards that next step. What can you do more? What can you do extra? Well, with a bad shoulder, he wasn't a very good blocker last year. So, hey, continue to improve on your blocking. All right, and you can continue to get off press coverage better now that you have two good arms, you know, and that's stuff that I think is important for him. He's done a good job of that. And, you know, I'm excited to see his progress this year. It's fun. It's the first time I've been able to see Josh these last couple of weeks. So pleased with Josh, and, you know, really excited with where he's at. And, again, we have a great group. It's just it's a daily thing of competition. And having a Damian Ratley, having a Jeremy Taboyo, having a Boone Niederhofer behind you makes those guys play better, because they know if they don't play well, I'm putting the next guy in, and I don't care who you are. And they know that, and that makes my job a lot easier.